while we're waiting, I'll give a quick introduction to myself, even though we're a little early. But I'd love to hear from who's in the audience while we're waiting. I'm sure our panelists would probably appreciate that too. My name is Morgan Slumberger. I'm the Director of Women's Entrepreneurship and Leadership at University of Montana. And I was so excited to come here and get to sit with some awesome women in finance and learn more about their stories and hopefully share some things that are interesting to you. But I'm wondering, would you all mind telling us maybe your name, what your major is, if you have a major or you're in school, and then what brings you in today? I want to hear your own voice.
Oh, it's
the speakers. Oh, thank you so much. Okay. Would you mind starting?
Yeah, I can start. Okay. My name's London. I'm interested because I was a finance major, but then as of yesterday, I switched to MIS, but this still really interests me.
Okay, David, first back to you. Okay, who else?
My name is Elizabeth James. I'm a law and MBA student. I'm Emily Jennifer. I am double majoring in finance and MIS. I just thought this was a really great opportunity, and I just wanted to hear what you had to say.
My name is Audrey Campbell. I'm an MIS major, a music minor, some certificates. I'm here because I don't love social media, and LinkedIn is not my thing, so I need to make it my thing.
I'm Tony Crawford. I'm the chair of accounting and finance.
I've exchanged emails with you at some point, Tony. Awesome. Thanks for being here.
I'm David Deal. I'm with the UN Foundation. I work very closely with Maureen.
Oh, great. That's awesome. Okay, welcome. Here, let's go. Or yeah, we'll do back row. Let's do it. Estella can go too.
I teach finance here in the college.
Awesome. Thanks for being here.
Estella Anderson, Director for Readiness and Relations.
Up here.
I'm Garrison, and I'm a major in business finance.
I'm Tyler Wiedmer. I'm a student here at the university. I'm studying both accounting and finance.
Awesome.
I'm Megan Tribble, and my major is finance with a minor in political science.
I'm Trey, and I'm majoring in finance with a minor in economics.
Awesome. Wow, lots of finance people for you guys. Okay, welcome. I'm going to just kind of roll in. Thank you so much for sharing a little bit about yourself. Would you mind just telling us your name now that you're late? Your name and just like what your major is?
So I'm Jedi, and I'm a finance major.
Okay, awesome. Thanks for being here. Okay,
Yeah.
great. Well, today we've got some really amazing folks to share their knowledge. I'm going to ask them some questions, and I'm also going to ask them to do some introductions. We have Jennifer Starr. She's the VP Commercial Loan Officer at Stockman Bank, and she's a UM College business alum who majored in accounting and hails from Warden, Montana. We've got Lakyn Bauder, a human resource specialist for First Interstate Bank. And Lakyn is a UM College of Business alum who majored in business administration, and she is from Corvallis. Am I right? Okay, got him so far. We've got Maureen Rude. Maureen was the executive director of NeighborWorks Montana, and also I believe worked for Fannie Mae at some point in her career. And she also hails from Belgrade, Montana. We've got a lot of Montanans in the house. And then Mariah is a commercial loan processor for First Security Bank. Mariah is a UM College business alum, graduated with a business administration finance degree, and she's from Hamilton. All right. Thank you so much for being here, everybody. And I'm going to start with a question where you can tell us a little bit more about yourself and a little bit about your career journeys. So if you could tell us a little bit about that journey, what were the highs and lows along the way to becoming women in finance? Jennifer, would you mind starting us off? We'll just go down the line.
Yes. Like she said, I graduated with an accounting degree in 2011, believe it or not. I moved back to Billings because that's where my family was, and ended up getting a job with Wells Fargo at the time, and was a credit analyst for about a year. And then I actually had a friend that was working at Stockman Bank that I had met here in Missoula, went to college together. So she kind of referred me over there, and I went and applied for a job and got that job as a credit analyst. And I have been with Stockman Bank for the last 10 years. So my resume is a little bit short, I guess, for job hopping. I started as a credit analyst, continued to, I guess I had went up and down a little bit, mainly at my own choice with having a family and stuff like that. I actually went part-time for about a year after I had a baby, but jumped right back into it. Went from a credit analyst to a junior loan officer, to a assistant vice president, and to now a vice president. So it's been an amazing career choice for me. And, you know, they flew me here today, so I can't complain.
Awesome. So I'm Lakyn Bauder. As mentioned, I reign from this area. I graduated from Corvallis High School, which is about an hour south from here. And I had a little bit of a rocky kind of find my path moment here at the university. I started out in journalism because I really wanted to be kind of the next Erin Andrews. I thought working for ESPN would be the epitome of success. Turns out local journalists here, you don't make a ton of money to be able to survive and have kind of the lifestyle that I thought and pictured myself having. So went into accounting, found out pretty quickly, not the best at accounting. Could pass the classes, did an internship with Anderson Zermulin, which was an amazing company, had a blast, but just figured out that I liked people a little bit more than I enjoyed numbers. So came back, kind of thought through things and went into the management program, where I found that my natural skills and where my mindset was kind of taking me, it just made more sense. I had a lot more fun in classes, I was a lot more successful in classes. So when I reached my senior year, I finished up my track career here at U of M. I knew that I kind of wanted to get out of town since I had grown up in this area. So I worked for First Interstate Bank. I found a position as a management trainee, which was an 18-month-long program, rotating through all of the major business units of the organization. And that was amazing exposure. I loved every second of it. I got some great mentorships through that, got to work with the executive team, had high levels of exposure to each of the business lines that really contributed to the success and the bottom line of First Interstate. As I finished up that program, I always kind of considered it like dating. You wanted to woo each business unit so that they wanted to hire you at the end. So my goal was make them all like me. I have to be the one to turn them down. So I fought the urge for HR for most of the program. I kind of knew that I was pinned as the HR girl just because I liked to talk to people. I was a little bit more maybe cheery and positive, and thought that maybe commercial lending was going to be the route that I'd have success. So I attempted the credit analyst role for a little while. I shadowed in multiple markets as a commercial lender, but still found my heart kind of tugging me to go more to the human resources side. So landed a position in the leadership and professional development team at First Interstate, which is where I'm currently at and have been with that department for about 4 years. I've been an HR specialist, which is a pretty broad title, and it encompasses a lot of different activities, primarily in helping managers grow into character-based leaders and also encouraging individual contributors that they can also lead even without having to be a supervisor. So we focus a lot on emotional intelligence work, being well-rounded and bringing your whole self to work, which is a little bit outside of the norm probably from what you would imagine in a financial institution. So using that banking knowledge I've gained as a management trainee, bringing that into the HR space and being able to really relate and connect with those bankers, because I have a good understanding of what their day-to-day looks like, even without having to be doing the banking all the time. So that's where I'm currently at. I love it. First Interstate's been a great organization. And yeah, I'm looking forward to kind of what's next. We're growing a lot as a bank. We just acquired Great Western Bank, so we're growing into 7 new states. Things are wild right now, but it's exciting. So thanks for having me.
I'm Maureen, and I graduated here in 1985, so I have a little longer history, but I actually also started in journalism.
Oh,
and then I got disillusioned with that very quickly and kind of floated around. I'm pretty sure I took a class in every department at the university. And I loved it because I really like to learn. And so what I learned about myself during that process was I was really good at accounting. And it took me a while to get there because I was a person who didn't fit the accounting norm at that time. I was a rock and roller. And, you know, so I got my degree in accounting after having about 30 credits more than I needed. And I went to work in Helena at the legislative auditor's office. And I had interviewed with some of, at that time, it was the big 8 CPA firms. And I interviewed with a couple and I just knew that was not going to be a fit for me, that I wouldn't fit in and they probably wouldn't like me either. So the legislative auditor was a great place to start because I got to learn about all the different agencies in state government. And while I was doing that work, I went to the Montana Board of Housing to do an audit where they wanted to find out if they could take all the reserves for the bonds that Board of Housing sold. And I totally geeked out reading all the bond indentures and I thought, this is my place. I'm a bleeding heart liberal with a finance brain. And that just fit me. And I'm really lucky that I found that very early on in my career. So I was at Board of Housing for about 9 years. Fannie Mae decided to open an office in Montana and recruited me to be the director of that office. I had become an executive director at a very young age. I was 33 when I became the executive director at the Board of Housing. So Fannie Mae was interesting. I worked about 5 years here in Montana doing community development, trying to get Fannie Mae's investments in Montana. And then things happened at Fannie Mae and they closed the office. And so I took a national position out of DC. They let me stay in Montana, believe it or not. And I traveled to all the state housing finance agencies all over the country for about 4 years, which was fun, but hard to do out of Montana, all that travel. And then I helped form NeighborWorks Montana. I was on the original organizing committee and Sheila Rice, who was the director, said, you know, I really need to bring somebody on to be my second in command. And I was like, let me finish this one project. And so I came to work as her really first full-time staff for the statewide organization and was there 12 years, ending with 4 years as executive director. So I worked in all sides of housing finance during that time, and I'll share some stuff based on the questions she'll ask later. But what I would say is that you can take that finance brain and do something that you feel like really matters. And for me, that was community development, housing finance, and it was a great career. I now sit on the board since 2010 for Opportunity Bank, and so I'm really getting more exposed to the other sides of banking besides just mortgage and lending, and it's been a wonderful experience.
Hi, my name is Mariah Sheener. I'm actually probably the young buck of the group. I graduated last year from the University of Montana. I took an internship my sophomore year at First Security Bank, and it was a summer internship, and it was the same as probably a lot of you are looking for right now. And it was a great opportunity for me because the internship was every department in the bank. So I got to work in real estate, commercial, consumer, operations, our teller line, our IT department. It really gave me like a broad spectrum because I didn't know what I wanted to do and I kind of needed to find my path. And so that summer internship was a really great summer and I learned a lot and I got to meet a lot of new people and kind of see where I might want to go with my career path. And after the summer, I was offered a job through part-time as I was going to school as a loan document specialist, just back scanning loans and all the time that our commercial loan officers don't have time for is they have a lot on their hands. And that was a great opportunity for me just to get my foot in the door. And then I graduated in May and I was offered a commercial loan processor. So I work and I process all of commercial loans with many different lenders, and it's great to be out in the community and really helping small businesses as we're just a small community bank. For me, it's like really rewarding just to see that small business grow and morph into a big business. And we do real estate and other little things like that, but I think that was the biggest thing for me was just helping our small community grow as a whole. So I probably have the shortest one, but I'm still kind of new at things, but I've learned a lot over the last couple of years and I think it's a great opportunity.
Thank you so much. And a wild time to be in finance and banking over the last 2 years, especially when in terms of small business. I know everybody here probably was in overdrive the last 2 years. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about your experience as a woman in a male-dominated industry. Jennifer, do you feel up to starting again?
Sure, definitely. You know, everyone has these thoughts about banking, and especially I would say on the commercial side of things that it is very, very male driven. When I first started, you know, all of the commercial loan officers were male. 10 years later, I can happily announce that, you know, 50% of our branches and billings have female branch managers. So that's really, really exciting. You know, and when I first started, I had a little bit of hesitation, you know, why would a customer want to bank with me? I'm new and I'm a female when they can be banking with this, you know, 60-year-old guy over here who, you know, is very knowledgeable, but, you know, what kind of edge will I have over him? And I guess you know, I went through the years and kind of found my niche a little bit and created these relationships with people. And there are just some customers out there that need a female loan officer. They just don't work well with males. And so, you know, you have that. But also people, it doesn't really matter whether you're a male or a female, as long as you're doing your job and you get, you know, people appreciate you getting them some money because they're growing their business and, you know, it's their livelihood. And if you can sit there and create that relationship and, you know, connect with them, they'll come back to you and they'll recommend you to other people. And so I guess that's kind of my experience. And it's definitely, you know, that perception that of males, you know, being at the top, it's changing. You know, we're coming up there and it's really exciting, I guess. So
yeah, I would echo that. You know, First Interstate, we have a lot of female executives. They're very strong leaders. They don't hesitate to bring out their full self into their work. So they will talk about their children, they will talk about their passions and their interests. And First Interstate has grown into an environment where that is accepted and that's encouraged. We too actually have more female employees than we do male employees, where we find that we have to be conscious, especially as our diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts have ramped up in these last few years, is making sure that at all levels of the organization, your organization mirrors and exemplifies what communities you're in. And I think in Montana, oftentimes that can be an interesting because some of the communities are really, really small. There's not a lot of diversity and some are more male dominated communities. So you find that businesses kind of mirror that. And you have a lot of men that will be in those banks, but you go 20 miles down the road and maybe it's a full female branch, which is kind of cool to see. So in terms of male dominated, I don't know if I've had a negative experience with that. But what I have found is that there does need to be focus and intentionality behind how you promote and support women in the workplace, especially those that are mothers and caring for other family members. That role of a caretaker, whether it's with children of your own or with other family members, maybe you adopt, maybe, you know, whatever the circumstances are, I think creating an environment where women are supported in that is really important. And that's a little bit of a shift versus, I think when it's more male dominated, those conversations don't take place often. You know, men can talk about their kids and they can talk about their passions and their hobbies, and you find that a lot, but you may see women be a little bit more reserved. So I've noticed a shift in that in these last 5 years as I've been with First Interstate, that it is about supporting an environment that cultivates a space where employees can be supported, whether they're women or men. But it's not as male dominated as I anticipated as I was going into the industry.
Well, my experience is a little different. I had both a high school teacher and a business professor here at University of Montana tell me that women didn't belong in business. And I barreled my way through because my mom told me I could do anything I wanted to do, and I believed her. But I did experience some, what I would call more interesting situations. When I worked for the Montana Board of Housing, it was attached to the Department of Commerce. And there were 13 division administrators and I was the only woman. And people would ask me about that all the time. And I never really thought about it. To me, it was just, you know, I was doing what I was doing. I was good at it. I went to the meetings and I never really, in retrospect, I see it now, but at the time, I just was like, you know, I'm gonna do a good job. I'm doing what I need to do. But people ask me about it regularly. And at that time, of all the state housing agencies in the country, there were 7 of us that were women. And that was the most they'd ever had at the time. Now I'm guessing close to half of them are women in those state housing finance agencies. On the bank board that I'm on, I was recruited because they really needed a woman on their board. And as we had conversations, I said, you know, I'm not willing to be a token woman. I'm going to ask questions. And the president of the bank said, oh, trust me, we know that. Anybody who knows you knows you're going to be talking at the meeting. But even then, and you know, I joined that board in 2010, and the first independent community bankers meeting that I went to was probably 80% white men. And it has changed, and you see it from year to year as you go to things. And I think that's incredibly encouraging. And I think it's changed the dynamics to a certain extent of banks, but I think it's also a conscious effort on behalf of a lot of the banks realizing they need to represent the populations that they serve. And that includes board membership, it includes staff. At least half of the women or half of the executives at Opportunity Bank are women. And they're amazing. And so I think that has changed. I think people still struggle a little with the people having babies and, you know, like you saying by choice, I think that's still a challenge, but I think they're trying to make those changes and make it more adaptable. So, you know, when I was starting my career, it was either you were on the baby track, the mommy track, or you were on a career track. And people shouldn't have to make those choices. And I think we're getting there slowly.
So I'm kind of different. So my supervisor and my manager are both females. And it's really great because a lot of us as a team, us processors and assistants, 90% of us are females. And so it's very interesting. Like, we have that support. We understand you have your child's doctor's appointments. We understand you have your soccer games that you have to attend to. And it's great because we always back each other up. So if you can't do it, I can do it. And it's really great to have that team and the women behind you standing up and understanding. And I think the males that are in that industry, especially for security bank, really see that when we stick together, we can get a lot more done. And they're just so understanding. And I think it's really great. And my boss, she's amazing, and she really manages her whole team very well. And even I think it's great. And a lot of the commercial loan officers that are above us, some of them are male, and I'd probably say half of them are female, and a lot of them have families. And I think it's really a changing culture. I grew up in a real estate family, so I grew up in the finance and business industry, and that's kind of how I knew where I wanted to go. And I think that back then it was different because my dad, he was the finance, he was the business guy. And now it's really morphed into where women are accepted in the finance industry a lot more than probably his generation was. So I think it's an ever changing, and it will continue to change.
Hopefully it trickles up.
I love that.
And it does take that,
Trickles.
yeah, it does take that intentionality too. So there's so many women that have had to deal with the exact opposite of our encouraging environments. And the people that have allowed them to raise their voices and say, this isn't right, this is uncomfortable. Why is it so different for me than it is for my male counterpart? So it can't go without saying that there isn't struggle and strife. And I think each one of us probably in pockets have experienced more challenging situations than that, but it is a changing culture. But organizations do have to really be intentional about it. It doesn't just happen.
Yeah. So wise. If you could all think of a pivotal moment where an employer in your past or presently found a professional growth opportunity or promotional opportunity for you within the company. Can you tell us about that? And if not, I mean, you know, if you don't have a great example, maybe think of a time when you were given some form of opportunity at your job. Well, yeah,
I'll
please.
start. so
Yeah,
that
great.
the pressure's
Take
off.
it over.
So when I was at Montana Board of Housing, I was running what we call multifamily program, so rental housing finance. And the man who was the executive director there really didn't get along with the board, and that it was a very bad situation in terms of the dynamics between him and the board. And they basically put him on administrative leave and said, you know, and he never came back. And the staff that I was working with at the time, they all encouraged me to throw my hat in the ring. And I said, oh, you know, I'm too young, I don't have enough experience, blah, blah, blah. And they said, but we would like to work for you, and we don't know who might apply. And so I took the stab at it, and, you know, the board, they knew I was young. They knew that I hadn't done all of what I needed to do in life, but they took a chance on me. And it was a board of all but one were men. And they just said, you know, we think you're the right person. And I had about a year, I called it, I had a really good honeymoon. Because the guy before me had created so much stress amongst the staff and really with all the customers, the board and banks and others in Montana. And so I had some time to really learn and to really work with the staff. And you know, it's right place, right time for sure. But that was such a pivotal moment for me. And I don't know what my direction would have been had that not happened, but it ended up just solidifying for me that that was where I belonged. And it was pretty amazing.
Yeah, I can go next. I have been very lucky to have a supervisor that advocates for me on a daily basis. She is a rock star in so many ways. She actually started about a month after I did and took over the management trainee program as I was in it. And she has been a big proponent for just not holding back, I guess, encouraging me to identify what my needs are, have the courage to ask for what I need, and to be able to manage whatever outcome that leads to. So she's been a great coach in that sense. And probably the biggest opportunity was after the management trainee program, so Leslie Scharf is my boss. Leslie Scharf, our chief HR officer at the time was Mike Sherwin, and then our CEO, Kevin Riley, were really supportive of kind of creating a position in the HR space for me. The position didn't exist. Most of the time getting into an HR department is difficult because you need to have HR experience. So I was this little newbie that started out as a trainee, and they put a lot of faith in me and my skills to say, okay, we don't really know what you're gonna do, but we think you have enough behind you that you can go and create something out of this and add value. So that was a really big win for me in my career, having the three of them support me in those efforts. And then soon after, actually within that first year of kind of transitioning out of the program, my boss was pregnant and was gonna head out on maternity leave. And usually in that space, she was the director of leadership and professional development, and I was one of her direct reports. And instead of putting all of the leadership and professional development items on hold or shifting them to her peers, they allowed me to step up and kind of pretend to be her for her leave. And that was one of the more intimidating things I have ever done. I was thrown into presenting to the board. As a 23-year-old, I was presenting to executives and senior leaders and facilitating conversations on succession planning. I was running employee engagement for the organization, and I got exposed to acquisition and mergers really early. I got exposed to transitioning the PTO program for the organization, and those 3 months taught me so much about not only where, okay, I was gaining some progress, but it also identified a ton of learning gaps where that fake confidence only takes you so far. So you learn really quickly where you have to step up and where you need to spend some dedicated time on development. So really Leslie's push to grow has been one of the biggest contributors to my career success. Yeah, I'm very appreciative for her.
I'll go next. So when I was an intern, I kind of didn't know if I could work full-time or part-time, if I could swing school and if I could swing work at the same time. And, you know, my supervisor, my manager, she's the vice president of commercial. And she does commercial lending, but really she just manages our team. And as my internship was coming to an end, she's like, we don't want to lose you. We want to create something for you. And so my job didn't exist, kind of like Lakyn's, and they kind of created a job for me. And now that job continues on. So there's been 2 people that have moved into that position, and it's continually growing. And they now see a need where my old position can be. And she kind of puts you on this path. So where I'm at right now is I'm a commercial loan processor. So I'm really learning how things work, how commercial loans work, what the title company does, what the bank does. And above me is an assistant relationship manager. So they really dig into the financials and make sure we're making that good credit decision. And so we all work as a team. So it's really great that we have like a ladder. So you can work in one and then move on to the next. And some of our loan officers now, they never had that ladder because this ladder has really been created the last 5 years. And I think some of the assistant relationship managers and the commercial loan officers really wish that ladder was there because we learn so much as we move on. And I think in the end will be definitely a stronger base. And I think that is something that has been really great. And I would say that would be an opportunity where someone stepped up for me. And I think that was the best one for me so far.
Nice. I guess I'll echo a little bit off of that ladder. When I first started at Stockman Bank, a credit analyst wasn't really a thing there. You know, we had loan assistants and then we had lenders, and you know, that support person really was not in there. And we had some people come over from the competitor who were used to this credit analyst idea. And, you know, they kind of pushed for it and pushed for a little bit of a change at Stockman Bank. And I went in there not necessarily knowing I was the first one, but I was. And the whole point of that credit analyst is, you know, to start and get experience and grow into this. They want you, you know, to become a commercial lender, you know, eventually. And so I guess I was kind of the guinea pig for that. And you know, gaining experience. And I had a mentor who really taught me so much, and just having someone to go to, it was just a really good for my career to, you know, go through those steps and just gain that experience. So
I'm gonna kind of reorganize some of our questions because I just noticed this theme of really hard work by all 4 of you, so congrats, and it being recognized by the people you work with. So I'm wondering, can you tell us a little bit about a time when you had to advocate for yourself and it paid off for you, or even if it didn't pay off? But it sounds like you've had really great people recognizing your work. Maybe you can tell us about a time when you had to help people see that.
I can speak to that a little bit as I'm kind of in the midst of it, I guess, and kind of coming off of the back end of it. So with the growth that First Interstate's seen in the last 5 years, this is the 4th acquisition season that I've had a chance to be a part of in some capacity. And in this growth and doubling really in size and the amount of employees, the amount of need for our people and taking care of them has just increased by so much. And we have great things in place to support, okay, role-based training. You've got support for operations, and as they grow and are supporting more and more employees, what does that look like for them? So standardizing and scaling processes. Then you move into our IT and technology space, and these people are amazing and care so much, but are absolutely overworked. And there's not enough hands to take care of all of the different requests. And so you have all of these resources that are working so lean, and you put leaders in the mix and they're just trying to keep their head above water. And so there's this need for coaching in so many ways, and finding people that you can just attune to and can sit and listen and understand what the frustrations are and what the stressors are, and then be able to kind of guide you to some insights on how to go about working with your people a little bit better and getting the different results that you're looking for. So right now, my boss is a career and executive coach. She's certified. And I've always really admired that. I've been able to learn on the job and start to facilitate some coaching, both on a group standpoint and then some one-on-ones. But with the amount of time spent for her in coaching, especially that senior leader and executive space, we still need to catch up with mid-level managers and entry-level managers. So I was able to advocate and say, I think I need to step up on the coaching end. I think there's a gap and we need to fill it. So having to ask for some support and getting certified as a coach, which is dollars towards that, which is always scary to ask an organization for more money because those conversations, you never quite know how they're going to go, especially after budget season, and we're pretty financially conservative. So having to be able to state a business case for your ask and understand if this is a value add and how are you going to show ROI for their investment into you. And you really got to map out what that request is going to look like and go into it truly with that business perspective of I need to have an ROI on this effort. So I was able to advocate. I was able to find out what the need was within the organization, and with the help of my manager, really helping me see what that need is and understand it a little bit deeper. We were able to move in. I'm in a certification course that started this week. So it moved fast and furious once the ball got rolling, but getting the ball rolling took multiple years of working with people and understanding the needs and finding the gaps and working with lean resources and then moving into the next phase.
So I think, I was really fortunate, and I say this and people tell me I shouldn't, but I really was in the right place at the right time for some things. And so seizing the moment and seeing that you're in the right place at the right time, I think is really important. And I think being sure to talk about where you want to go, but also be willing to put in the work to get there. And then at some point in time, you have to say, okay, I'm going to go for this, and it might not go my way, and I have to know what I'm going to do if it doesn't. And so I'll give you the example for myself. When I call it coming back to Montana, but when I came and went to work for NeighborWorks, I did not want to be in the leader of the organization. I really wanted to have a life because I had spent so much time on the road and in airports, and I just kind of saw my life flashing before my eyes. And so when our executive director was getting ready to retire, she really wanted me to take on that role. And I said, well, I think, we need to talk to the board about it. And I said, and I'll tell you, I'm not going to do it for a long time because I've got my plan in place for retiring at 59 and a half when I can get to my 401k. And so I had some conversations with the board, and they made an offer to me, and it was at the low end of the scale. And I was like, what is this about? I had more experience than the leader that I was taking over from, and in housing. And they said, well, we want you to have somewhere to go. And I said, well, I don't need anywhere to go. This is going to be my last job. And so I just basically made the decision that if they weren't going to go to the scale, and it's a nonprofit, but you still got to earn a living. And but I really had to think through that. Okay, what am I going to do if they say no? Because I'm not going to do that much more work for just a few $1,000s. So I think just really thinking through what the outcome is going to be one way or the other and what you're willing to do. That was the hardest thing I ever did, I think, in my entire career, was that conversation. So.
Knowing your value. Both of you had that theme.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I think I have a little bit just to piggyback off of Lakyn. I think maybe not advocating for myself, but advocating for our team as processors. I think it's ever changing, and with the new positions of arms, we're trying to take less stress off the lenders so they can really get out in the community. And things just weren't working. I mean, we were working 60-hour weeks, long hours. It was hard. So we kind of all came together with our supervisors and says, this isn't working, but we need to change and find a way that it's going to work. And I think once we had that tough conversation, things have ran a lot smoother. We're more of a team than we were before. And I think it just right now, the times are just so different and everyone's paying more. It's kind of like our supervisors are like, what do you need? What can we help you with?
What a good place to be.
What can we do for you? Is kind of the intake right now. And I think that's great. And we have that community and team effort there.
Yeah, I guess I'll piggyback a little bit more off that is once you get into the banking industry, it's very competitive and you'll be getting calls from recruiters left and right. Come work for me at this bank or I'll give you this much and all that. And I guess when I look back at my career and advocating for myself, I've always wanted to be a mom, but I want a career too. And why can't I have both? Times have changed. And I think anytime, they're scary and tough conversations to have with your supervisor, but anytime that I have went to them and said, this is what I need, I have to be a little late here or I have a doctor's appointment here, they're pretty understanding if, because they don't want to lose you. So they kind of let you, figure it out. And if you're doing your job and getting it done, usually it's okay. And so that's, I guess, one thing that, I've stepped up and asked, and they usually say it's okay because they don't want to lose you and because they have to start over and train more people. And I think one common thing I'm seeing here is if your employer recognizes that you're a good employee, they will do anything to keep you.
Yeah, hard work goes a long way, and having some crucial conversations, it sounds like, too, on occasion, and being prepared for, like, they could say no, and then what? And it's interesting, sometimes you have to have that feeling of, well, they could say no, and so what if they do, really interesting themes. I'm wondering, we're gonna skip ahead because I want to leave time for student questions. I'm wondering if you could tell us what the one thing is you wish someone would have told you about finance industry before you entered it.
Maybe just how important business acumen is. I think no matter what role that you play in the organization, the better business acumen that you have, the better job you can do. You just have more context for what you're working on. You can ask better questions. You can understand the business decisions being made at the higher levels of the organization. So that exposure to business in a very general sense is really powerful. And also taking initiative for your own development in this space is really important. Organizations have role-based training and you have your degree and you move forward with kind of that baseline knowledge. But in order to remain relevant, in order to adapt well and be an agile employee, there's so many different avenues for your growth in an organization now. It's not just be a financial analyst and that's all you ever do. You can go into supervisory roles. You can make more of a lateral change to go work specifically with a business unit to add value. You can be on the route of, hey, I just want to do this type of work forever, and that's okay too, and be the best at your widget. But that taking initiative for your career is really important, and no one else is going to take that initiative for you. So you can find great people for support, as we all kind of have, but yeah, that's the business acumen was huge for I know my own personal success.
Oh, I can't think of anything specific other than I wish maybe that I thought that I needed to approach the world as a man did, because I was in finance. And so I just, was like, and I wish I would have learned to accept that I could have the softer side and still be successful. And it took me a long time to get there. And I made the note of Leadership Montana. I think that was a really important piece for me. I was in the first class of that program and it was a little too much touchy-feely for me, but it got me to develop a little bit of that side. And so I wish I had not approached my the way I did things quite the way I did. And during that program, we did Myers-Briggs, and I ended up, there were 40 of us, and I ended up in a box of 16 that was me and 9 men. And it's really telling. When you find yourself in that situation, it's kind of like, oh, okay. So, you know, I wish I had learned that a little earlier. I think it would have been a little easier on me and probably the people around me.
I would just say the hands-on training, like you learn so much in school and you learn how to create the numbers, but you go to work thinking that's what you're gonna do, and the world is ever changing. When COVID hit, I was a loan specialist, and the SBA, the Small Business Administration, came out with the paycheck protection loans, and my whole job came to a stop. We processed those applications day, night, weekend. We breathed them for a very long time, and to this day, I'm still working with those small businesses, and I think your job is ever going to change. It's always going to change, and you're always going to have these smaller projects on top of your current job. And I just think that's something. It is about the numbers. It is about what you learn in school, but I think it's also once you get into the industry, you're just going to be handed other workloads, and you just kind of have to prioritize what comes first in your timeline. I think that was the biggest thing for me so far.
Yeah, I think one thing that I wished, I don't know if someone should have told me, or I wish that I should have done coming into banking. And I know there's a bunch of internships these days where you're able to shadow throughout the different departments. But the one thing that I never did at the bank was I was never part of the teller line or anything like that. And it's something that I really wished I would have done, just to have the experience and the knowledge to know all of that. And so I guess if banking and finance is something that you guys want to get into, you know, get your feet wet in every little department and just like get the basics and build that foundation off of it. Because that's just one side, the deposit side of things is something I just never really dabbled in. And I wished I would have.
I learned so much on the teller line in that management training program. I think I spent 12 weeks, and I've never been more stressed because I was like, look at all this money that's on my hip, and I'm so responsible for it. And you have a whole new appreciation for regulatory knowledge, process knowledge. So yeah, those entry-level roles, or just never thinking that any job is beneath you, is going to add to your success day in and day out.
That's a really good point, of never thinking anything is beneath you and being willing to jump in and do things. You know, I had some staff who wouldn't do that, and they, you know, they're like, well, that's not my job. And I'll tell you, that's the one thing you should never say to your supervisor. Well, that's not my job. Well, guess what? Other duties does assign.
Well, I want to, before we jump into student questions, just thank you all for sharing. Okay, what do you want to know from these wonderful people? And I expect hands to be raised. I've been in the classroom before. I don't want any painful things. So think of something, raise that hand, please. Yeah, thank you.
What would you say is really important for, someone who's going to graduate soon, to getting my name out to banks, to the recruiters to be hired?
You're an HR person.
I am an HR person, I know. So I think networking is massive. Just creating a connection. So especially nowadays, LinkedIn really is a fantastic tool. Setting up time to connect is taking that initiative that really sets you apart. I think so often we can rely on messaging, we can rely on emails, but if you're able to get someone on the phone, better yet, a Zoom call, and just say, hey, you know, here's who I am, here's the skills that I think I can bring to your organization. I see this position and this position open. What are you looking for? And most of the time, recruiters are pretty open to those kinds of conversations. I will say being a serial kind of application inputter is not always the best. If you're applying for 10 to 12 roles within an organization at once, as a recruiter, what I've heard is you kind of sit back and go, well, do you really want one of the specific jobs, or are you just trying to be hired? Like, what does that look like? So I think being intentional with what you're applying for and being thoughtful in the way that you're going about it is really important. I I know that with COVID, things have shifted a little bit with what networking opportunities are available. But a lot of cities and towns are doing more of that young professional type group. And that was really helpful in Billings. They have a great program with that. So I know that was some of my exposure. But yeah, just reach out to people. Don't be afraid to pick up the phone. It can be intimidating at first and kind of feel like cold calling. But that connection and showing that you're human really does go a long way.
Yeah, and I think, you know, at least from Stockman Banks, you were trying to strengthen our relationships with, you know, with the university, with me just being here. And so I guess, you know, if you have any interest in working for Stockman Bank, feel free to reach out to me. You know, that's how people get jobs, because they know somebody that's working there. That's how I got my job at Stockman Bank, because I knew someone who already had a job there. And if they can recommend you, I mean, that's usually how you do get the job. And so I guess, you know, us as an organization, we're trying to strengthen the relationships with the School of Business here, and especially with our new locations here in Missoula. And, you know, we're kind of all over the state now. And I mean, I guess the door is always open, just to come talk to me. And I know Stockman Bank usually has, you know, has booths here and stuff like that, and the other banks as well. So I guess don't be afraid to let us get to know you, because we're not that big, you know.
Yeah.
We're human, and we'll remember you. So
One of the questions that David and I had talked about was I wish there was a way for people who want to do finance, but do it for some organizations like I did, you know, where community development type of thing. You know, I wish there was some kind of program that bridged those two things. And there are schools that have them, but there's not very many. So first, I want to say, don't be afraid to try a nonprofit. They need finance people as much as anybody else. And there are, you know, amazing finance professionals in the nonprofit world too. So we had an intern from, not College of Great Falls anymore, I can't remember what the University of Providence, whatever. Anyway, we hired him as an intern, and he got his accounting degree in 3 years, which just blows my mind. But he worked for us part-time as an intern, then we hired him part-time, and then I approached him and said, you know, I really need to take some off of my area. And one of the things I did was our bridge program, pre-development loans, things like that. And I was doing those myself. And I said, do you want to learn this? Because you've got such a good, you know, your brain works in such a good way. And he's still there, and he's running that program now, and he's 25 years old. So, you know, those kinds of connections that you make, whether it's an internship, whether it's, you know, meeting somebody like one of us and getting our card and have us say, oh, I know so-and-so, I can call them and make the connection. Use those and do those things, because you might not find where you really want to land on the first or second or third try. But, you know, I know for me, finding this area just made all the difference in the world, is because I just kept looking. It's like, how can I put what I have together and make it work? So.
And make Estella your best friend, because she's swinging with all these people. I think that's like super valuable. And when you come to these events, like take Jennifer up on that, you know, talk with her after the event. I think that that's a critical part. The College of Business is providing you with so many connections. Use them, you know, that's why they're doing it.
Those one-on-one opportunities, that's actually how I got an interview for the management training program with First Interstate, was after one of the, I don't know, banker kind of expos, and we had a representative, and he was holding one-on-ones, and so you just kind of sign up and do it. I also had 3 or 4 one-on-ones that never led to anything. I never heard back from him after sending, but I just probably wasn't a right fit, and it ended up working out great. So yeah, taking the chance with the one-on-ones and the activities here to network, it's such a safe space to be able to do that. So taking advantage of those opportunities like this is really helpful.
I have one more thing. I'm sorry, I just can't stop myself. But as a person who hired a lot of people, doing the really generic application or having your resume be really generic is going to be hard, and it's going to be hard for you to get someone to pick it up. You know, people who actually crafted something that made it clear that they were interested in the position that I was hiring for, and it was clear that they weren't just sending a blast out to, as you said, you know, 100 different things. Because you got to get their attention somehow. And that's one thing that I really noticed with a lot of people in the last couple of years before I retired, is I was getting all these applications that people just saw something on LinkedIn and or Indeed and just sent it in and had nothing to do with what we did. And those just went, they went in the file. So that's.
Or the wrong organizational
Yeah.
talent, that's always fun.
Yeah, yeah. Be careful about those.
And I think it's just about who you know and the relationships. I wasn't actually looking for an internship when I got my internship. I was getting married that summer and I had way too much on my plate. And I took the opportunity and just pushed through that summer, and I will never regret it. I mean, it might not work exactly at this point in your life, but in the long run, it'll be so worth it. So I just say get yourself out there and meet some people.
I have time for one more question. Yeah, please.
Number one, thought I was at optimizing LinkedIn. I was a month early, but super happy to be here and hear from all of you. One thing that I talk with a lot with friends we're all kind of right around 30, right? Is discussing pay in a very honest way. And as somebody who is hiring people, it's an interesting conversation. I think, especially above a certain, I don't know if it's age, I don't know what it is, but it's kind of a taboo, especially when you're fresh out of college. However, there's a large amount of younger people that are like, no, like, this is inflation, like wages aren't equating, like we have to discuss numbers or our quality of life is so, it can be so poor, I mean, yeah, literally and figuratively, right? So, so I guess, do you feel like the world is kind of, at least the US, our world is kind of moving toward that being more acceptable? Do you have advice for how to approach that? And if you're hiring people, if somebody comes to you fresh out of college and they're like, this is what I'm thinking number wise. I've been faced a lot with people being like, we'll discuss it when we get there. And I'm like, no, I'm telling you, I have 4 meetings with different people today. And your answer to this determines like how I prioritize this moving forward. How do you feel about all of that?
I can start just as a HR gal. I am a massive proponent for more transparency in the pay space, even if it's just showing what the scale of the job is. Now, every organization is different in what transparency looks like. And that comes from top of the house down and what kind of strategy they have for recruiting talent. I think when approaching those conversations, doing it in a way where it's not asking for money for the sake of asking for the dollar amount, but showing here's the value that I'm going to bring to you. Here's what the return on investment is going to be. And here's kind of my skin in the game. Now, it's also not taboo for us to actually ask our employers for things now. It's not just us giving. We also need employers to step up and help provide for us and support us as employees in our whole life. So to your point, with student loans being what they are, the cost of living being what they are, not every organization is going to be able to adjust their numbers to fully fit kind of that picture of success. So I think it's aligning yourself with an organization that values the whole person. And as you sit down and talk about the numbers, being willing to have a range in mind, but holding firm. If you know what your value is, hell, someone's going to pay for it. It's just being tactful in what that conversation looks like and knowing that there's value add there for both. You get a value from the organization you're working for, they get a value from you. So
I think it's really hard always, the money conversation. And, when I went to work in state government, it was a set scale and, you didn't even have, it's like, here's what it is. And you could move up and you could get promotions. And, I think the 5 out of the 6 years I was in state government, there was a salary freeze. This is why I only worked there 6 years. I'm kidding. But I at NeighborWorks, one of the things that I implemented was a really definitive scale that based on position, it was this much to this much, and based on your education and experience, so I was really upfront with people. you know, based on your resume, and we talked about it in the interview, you know, based on your resume and where you're at, it would probably be about here. Because I don't want somebody to go through the whole process and then at the end, when I offer them the job, say, well, that's not enough for me. And, you know, and in order to have parity amongst the staff who had been there for a long time, you know, that setting that kind of a wage scale worked for what we were doing. But it was hard if they got offered something else because, you know, I couldn't really go outside of that and change the way I was doing it without then going back and reassessing everybody else. So, and I think that it's one of the hardest things to do, and trying to do performance-based pay in a small organization is really hard. So it's those other things that I'm glad people ask for, you
That
know,
total-
education chances.
Yeah, the total compensation statement is important. And I think if you can ask about the total comp statement versus just the salary or the hourly pay, that employer will have a different response because you've approached that conversation differently. So total compensation packages, if you've never looked at one, do, because that's going to show you the true value that a company is putting on you, from your benefits to your 401k contributions. The hourly pay is important, but then what other programs do they offer? So total comp statements are amazing to look at as you're looking for
That's a really
jobs.
good point.
And I'd just like to chime in on that too, because I think Lakyn, you said something earlier about knowing your value. And I think there's something critical in there where maybe you're looking at a lot of different entry level jobs and you understand like kind of the range. Where do you fit in that range and why? I think is a really critical reflection exercise. And then also understanding when you graduate, what is the life you want to lead? Because there may be unpaid benefits that come with a certain kind of job, and I'm not talking, you know, HR benefits. I'm talking like, do you have the flexibility to work from home? Are you know, in this day and age, we're all really getting that flexibility more. I'm not sure about you gals on the baking side, but I think, you know, there are these other pieces of the puzzle to look at in addition to the compensation. You have to eat and you have to make rent, you know, obviously. But what are these other places? And then I love the idea of how fast could you move up if that was your trajectory? Really good questions. And I think you probably could all say yes to this, but when people ask really thoughtful questions in an interview, it's like, ooh, they want this job. They've thought about this and they've reflected on it. It's really exciting. As I hire quite a few people, it's really exciting when they've thought that through. They come with intelligent questions. Cool. Well, I want to give you ladies one more round of applause. Thank you so much for being here. I welcome you guys to catch them on their way out if that's something that you'd like to do. And thank you all for being here today. And thanks to the College of Business for putting this on.
Oh, you got it.
Hi. So I want to.
Fine.
Amazing.